Order. Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Committee of the Whole, Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. And online we have Director Tony Rainbow, Director Mike Richmond, and alternate Eric Anderson from Squamish. I'd like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Lillooet Nation. Ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please. Jen Ford, seconded by Sal the Mayor. Regional moment, turning it over to Squamish. Call question. Thank you. You want to post? Thank you. Carrie. Now, approval of the regional moment.
Hey, I have I sent over the presentation. We'll get it up on the screen, and I wanted to talk about in Squamish where we've undertaken a the work on this project, which is our real estate and facilities master plan, which involves addressing our massive deficit that we have in our facilities in Squamish. Essentially, every municipal facility is over capacity and past end of life. So maybe 2 terms ago, the planning work started and the shovels went in the ground during last term, and that work is ongoing. So I wanted to share some pieces that have been achieved through this, as well as some sort of like the next steps, I think. Throughout that plan, without going into great depth of this document that's massive that I could share with everybody if they're interested in going deeper, it was acknowledged that public safety was the highest priority. So therefore, we're going to start with addressing our fire halls, and then just below that is the public works facility, which really addresses the things like clean water and wastewater treatment and our roads and parks and so on. And then we move into recreation and the needs of our municipal office and on down the list. So the list you see here are all things that are sort of in the near term or underway. So you can go next slide, please. So this is our new fire hall, Squamish Fire Hall number 1, which we're really proud of. It has a state of the art operations center room, which is emergency operations center. So which is now out of the floodplain. This building is also a post-disaster building, which our previous ones were not, and were potentially the first ones that would fall down in a natural disaster of any magnitude. So now we have somewhere to really house our emergency services. This facility also has municipal servers are now up in a post-disaster building out of the floodplain, which is helpful. And there's accommodation here that allow us to go to full 24-hour coverage of our fire service, which we haven't been able to, which we haven't had previously. So this sort of enables that further growth of that service. It's located on the way, just sort of the south end of town, just as you enter, and also provides fast access to the emergency services provided along Highway 99. So it's directly adjacent to the highway. So this project is extremely energy efficient and had a massive amount, 88% waste diversion from the structure that was there originally. There was a fire hall here that was much smaller footprint and so on, but the efficiency of the overall project was viewed right from deconstruction to construction of the new facility. So it's an interesting thing where climate change is and the impacts of that are a driver for our location change and our needs in emergency services, but it's also mitigating the impacts of that through our new practices while we solve that at the same time. So sort of layering in these very expensive pieces. So but we were able to achieve a lot of of efficiencies here, and has a very low carbon footprint, and also serves as a training facility that services in the region do come in and train here as well in the back, which isn't in any of our photos, is a great training area. We'll go next slide. Kind of goes one of our more exciting days, and this is a tradition when you open a new fire hall, is you push the equipment in, and so this was on opening day. Yeah, so this is built to the highest, not just the highest level of building, which I sort of attempted to address in my last comments, but also in best practices in the fire service. And over the years, there's challenges with rates of cancer with firefighters and so on, and there's all these new practices around having the clean side and the contaminated side and all the processes to ensure that we have a safe environment for our emergency services. And this is addresses that all the way through. It's really built to facilitate those best practices, where we were doing those things in the other facility, but it was very much a fight because nothing was built to actually have the divides that we needed, and the shower facilities, and right down to the saunas to help purge out the contaminants. So it's it's a great spot, and we'll go next slide. This is our clearly signed emergency operations center, and that facility is amazing. I actually used it for one of our there's meeting spaces in this building as well, and we used the emergency operations center for a strategic planning session for our council, and it's a amazing space. For those of you that I feel like there might be some whiteboard fans in here, the entire room is a whiteboard, unless it's a big screen and it connects. So yeah, I actually see a few smiles around the table on that one. And I mean, it has other features, but that seems to be the one that really that catches people right away when you get in there. But it's it's great, and we've had a few occasions to use it already. And I think that in a major disaster, I think that the location of Squamish and this facility really positions us well to serve the region as in that emergency situation that we all hope we don't have, but given the nature of where we are, we might. And then we'll go next slide, please. So this shows might give you a better point of reference to the chief in the background as to where it is. It's just tucked away quite close to the hospital. It was a very complex site. There's it's on just a slightly level spot, and there's a power line and just all those things. So I'm very happy that we're able to get there with this site. And this also represents a shift in our the fire hall that was located at this site was where our volunteer or paid on call service was based, and our professional firefighters were at another fire hall, and we've switched so that and we'll get into fire hall number 2 in the next couple slides and what's going to happen there. So this is the home of our professional fire service. Can you go next slide, please? So this is a plaque outside the fire hall that recognizes Alex Monroe, who is our first, amongst a long list of achievements, was our first fire chief and long-serving member of the community. And there will be additional signage added to the outside of the hall that honors Alex's Mr. Monroe's contributions over the years. So that's a piece that's a piece of signage that's yet to come, but is great too. I love seeing the history represented in the most modern of facilities. I think that's really really good. Can you go next slide, please? So this is a rendering of fire hall number 2, which is on Tantalus Road, so a little more central in the Garibaldi Estates region of Squamish. And right now, this building was, this is this is an image of the future state, but this building had, there was a building on site that was where professional firefighters were stationed, and it was not seismically sound. There were all sorts of temporary abutments put around it and reinforcements to try to get it to some level. Well, these steps were sort of figured out. So this building, the building that was there is now gone, and they're doing they're working on getting ready for the footings. This is has budget approved and funding mechanisms in place, and this is moving forward. One of the things we had two operational fire halls, and as you go about replacing one, you still need to have that capacity. So part of this was also having a temporary facility for each of those. So we have a temporary fire hall that we set up close to fire hall number 1 while we did that project. Now we've moved that temporary fire hall to fill the space of fire hall number 2 during this project. So these aren't just construction projects. We're still delivering service to our community while doing these projects, and it's incredibly complex, and the team's been doing an amazing job of keeping it on track. So fire hall number 2 is coming. Interestingly, we have budgeted, we've in the budget and in the design, we've reinforced that structure to take additional floors above. The hope is that BC Housing will come and play, or perhaps another use will be available to put on top of this. The timing hasn't worked out perfectly to be able to do that in one step, but everything that goes on the roof of this building is designed to be able to move and go onto the roof of the next building, and same with the HVACs and so on, to be able to allow for the use of the airspace above. We don't have a lot of land in our municipality, and so we're always looking for opportunities with space, even if that happens to be airspace. So hopefully there's at some future update we can talk about what we find, what we can nail down for the use of that airspace, but the structure is designed to take that additional load above, and we're taking all the lessons learned from fire hall 1 as far as the diversion rate and those environmental considerations, and building on that with fire hall number 2. So this is moving. We can go next slide, please. So now we're on to, we have a new public works facility is next on the list. It's in final design phases. We're having budget challenges, just making it fit. The ground seems to be moving underneath us all is faster than we can adjust for it, but this is the next on the list. The site's currently being preloaded. And when this building is operational, we'll be able to do things like service our fire trucks. And right now if you want to, even a dump truck sticks out of the current base that we have. So there's no, we don't have the facility that we have now is woefully inadequate for what we need. And this will set us, this facility will set us up to be able to give our folks that are looking after our water systems and our roads and parks and so on, a real facility to work from. Interestingly, on this site, also a very constrained site, we have a wastewater treatment expansion, which we're not talking about in our facilities, but it's all I don't know if it's a Tetris game or something to make it all fit at the right time as we move these pieces around. So this is an exciting piece, but it's also, we're dealing with flood control levels and all sorts of challenges with to be able to put something here. So you'll notice that the bays are low, and that building at the back is actually moved up to represent the flood control level. So we're able to sort of work with the site that way. But there'll be some more discussion on this coming soon. Move on down, next slide, please. So next is our Brennan Park fields and land. So it's our recreation that's our recreation facility, and this facility is in need of much upgrade. But we're trying to do move as much as we can in the forward, but also being mindful that these things that that short list that I just ran through represents many millions of dollars. So there are more grants available for recreation services than the other things. And we're able to secure a rather sizable contribution from the federal government. We got $16.3 million and for phase one of the upgrade. So we have a substantial plan for the upgrades there and are able to submit the right portions of that to the right funding streams, and we're starting to see successes there. So I hope this is sort of phase one of ongoing upgrades there. And this particular piece is of funding is around reducing GHG emissions from the facility. This facility represents in the neighborhood of 75% of our corporate GHG emissions. Is at our swimming pool and our ice rink. So increase accessibility. So there's we're sort of the two main drivers. So there'll be a big, but it will really create a stronger backbone for additional steps that will actually increase. Some of the future steps will be increasing the footprint. This is really about efficiencies with the space we have, both energy wise and space wise. The community is really excited about this piece. As we all know, it's fun to get out with your family and do all these things, but we have lots of challenges with just programmable space and so on. So this is really going to sort of set us in a good direction that way. And doing the most we can with other folks, with other orders of government's pocketbook is really good too. So there is a matching, a small portion that the municipality needs to contribute. So I think it works out to an $18.3 million project overall, something in that nature, but substantively done with the federal money for this space, and more chasing some more as we go there. So next slide, please. So Municipal Office, on time and on budget. We pulled these slides from a staff presentation that we had, and really our municipal hall is mostly a temporary structure of backflow trailers pushed together that were a temporary solution many decades ago. And we've got multiple people per office. It's just we're bursting at the seams. So to address that, there's ongoing work, and in this case, we're looking at exploring the potential of leasing space, because a lot of the space we need is really just office space. It doesn't need to be something that's extravagant. And as all these pieces push together, we end up as a municipality really getting close to our debt servicing limit, and we have to be really mindful of how all these pieces fit together. So depending on how all these grants are coming in and so on, so there is but there's a lease here that's going to be explored, to at least be weighed against the other options to ensure that we're really looking at that whole picture. And and we also have, it's not on this list, but we also have the library is also over capacity, end of life. There's other pieces. So there is ongoing work to sort of figure out if we can make some of these pieces fit together for co-location and for the efficiencies that could come with that, as well as conversations with the school board to try to figure out where we're going. But this piece, you can see those other pieces are moving, and this is the sort of that next piece that's still being worked on, but is rather urgent. Attracting staff, retaining staff is one thing, but we need a place to put these people, and the people we have we're just bursting at the seams. So it's really challenging. And also as I'm sure you can all appreciate, spending sort of the public sometimes use these things as spending money on yourself. We're going to build ourselves a new big thing. So it's really delicate work here to figure out the best sort of return on investment and the right move there. So that's ongoing work. We We got 2 more slides. Go next slide,
Thanks, because
please.
I'm just watching the time.
Time. I can talk all day. Once I get through the slides.
About
you
30 seconds.
Okay, good. So this goes into our sustainability goals and what we've achieved through these pieces. So you can see that our waste diversion is really high, and that's something we have a lot of development pressure in our community. And we were using these projects to show the development community that it can be done. So you do not need to bin the building that you're taking down. You can divert it, and we've shown that. So these results will be reflected in our ongoing policy updates to drive home the fact that it can be done. We're not asking an unreasonable thing of our development community to handle their waste effectively. And then, of course, as then the energy efficiencies of the buildings. And then next slide, please, as I've got almost 30 seconds over. So this is the ongoing grants that we're chasing to further those goals. And we've been really lucky with well, I would call it luck. It's one of those things where you create your luck, but having the planning process is really sort of nearly shovel ready. We're just waiting for funding. So when a funding opportunity shows up, we're not making a project for that, but we can take our plans, take the piece that would be applicable for that, and go forward. And we've been successful with that so far, and I hope this is just the start. But I just wanted to run through this with all of you here, because this is just a crucial part of our work we're doing in Squamish, and it's really one of the main drivers in our budgeting process. So it's great, but there's been historical underinvestment in our facilities, and they keep getting kicked down the road, and then someone somewhere has to take it on, and that's the era that we're in. And it's a big piece of work, and but I'm really happy to see that it's progressing, and there's lots more to do there. So so this is a big part of the Squamish context over the last term and going forward is our facility needs. And that's.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you, Armin. Well done, Squamish.
Thank you. I was a little worried I was going to get the gavel, so thank you.
I thought
for indulging me. Yeah, if we have time for questions, I could answer some.
Oh, obviously Director Demare does, but we do have to move along in the agenda too.
With the 2 fire halls, what heating system are you using?
Ooh, it's all heat pumps.
Heat pumps?
Yeah.
And I
And
saw,
there's an aspect, one of the things with the fire hall and the public works is interesting is the buildings that have these massive bays that open up and flush all the air out of the building. We actually did some heating in the slab to sort of help maintain that, because that was a really hard thing to meet those standards. We talked to the LEED standard. Those are a lot of times it's building envelope, and that is a driver there. So it was really complex to actually hit those targets.
yeah. So in the fire hall 2 picture, I saw propane tank and a generator. So I presume you've got one in each facility for emergency.
Yeah, in the back of fire hall 1, there's actually a massive, we've got, I'm trying to remember how many days redundancy there with a big diesel generator. And we also have our ability to fuel our vehicles there as well. So in a disaster, one of the things that happens really quick is that if the highway's closed, they can't bring fuel in. So our response is just hemmed in. So yes, at each facility will have fire hall 2 goes to a lower standard. I forget how many days. I think it's 2 days at fire hall 2, but we've got 10 days of redundancy at fire hall 1. So including fuel. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we'll move on to item 4 on our agenda, staff reports and other business. 4.1 with the CAO verbal update.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then we'll move to 4.2, the regional 2023 budget. And we have a report provided by Director LeBronce, who will be here. She's beaming in. Good morning, Suzanne. Please go ahead. We're ready for your report on the budget.
Good morning. All right, so this is the first review of the regional budgets. These include the general government budget, the regional invasive species budget, the land planning and zoning budget, regional solid waste management, utilities and environmental services department, regional transit planning, and regional growth strategy. Also included is the Sea to Sky Trails. However, I wasn't able to have this budget ready for this meeting. It'll be presented in February. These budgets use the 2023 completed assessment roll. And you'll see I have the difference from the 2022 revised roll and the 2023 completed roll with the percent change. Overall, the region increased 14.99% in assessments, and these are hospital assessments. I did a quick non-market change review as well. And the non-market change for the region is 1.8%, and the market change is 13.49%. Basically, the market change is everything that's shifting with the markets, and then the non-market change is new inventory, property class changes, boundary changes, if there is any, and those kind of changes with assessments. There is another chart on the second page that shows the inventory change. So I focus mainly on the non-market inventory change, as this is new inventory and will expand the assessment base. And each area is listed with their percentage of non-market change in inventory. And then the third and fourth columns are just the residential inventory non-market change. So overall, the non-market change increases of 1.8 will allow some additional taxation to be spread out, approximately 1.8% of it to new inventory. Any questions on that so far?
Not seeing any.
Not seeing any. All right. We'll talk about the requisition changes so far. This is the first draft and still apt to change, but for now, the requisitions is mainly flat in general government, which is just a slight reduction from 2022's level. Regional invasive species is shown as flat. However, the contractors, there's two contractors that are involved in this service. They have shown interest in increasing their amounts. There hasn't been increased since it was initiated. And so we have gone through this service establishment amendment bylaw. It hasn't been adopted yet, but we're in the process of allowing for an increase to the maximum requisition for the service and potentially an increase to the contractors' amounts. But that will be a discussion for February's meeting. So for now, that service is shown as flat to last year. Land planning and zoning does have an increase about 11%, 11.5% for $37,000. The regional solid waste management also shows an increase of 49,500, which is about 48%. And I'll get into the details of each of these services. I just wanted to show the main requisition changes. And regional growth strategy has a slight reduction in dollars, but it ends up looking like a huge reduction in percentage because it's 41%, but it's only $2,449. Sea to Sky Trails, I haven't included in this package.
Oops. Do you believe Ms. LaFrance just
At this moment, we the February board for their, sorry?
Good. Carry on. Okay.
Yeah, so the Sea to Sky trails will be brought to the board in February to show a potential increase to the maximum requisition. And the consolidated budgets show the requisition increasing for all of these budgets combined 2.6% or $77,000. However, when looking at the estimated residential tax rates, they actually decrease because of the market changes and also the non-market change. And so a $1 million property would pay $53.95 for these services. So within our salaries and wages changes, so the CPI for BC has been released and it was 6.6%. So all of the salaries have been adjusted for this as per board resolutions. And the salaries also include any merit increases. All of the positions hired in 2022 show full years. And the previously approved positions are shown in this service as well, in these services as well. And the Director of Strategic Services position is added. And the board has already been in discussions with the CAO on these new positions, and a new policy analyst position is added in general government as well. And the benefits show a 5% estimated increase. Our extended health benefits are renewed in August every year. And so to allow for an increase there, whereas it'll be unknown until August. And so the forecast amounts are subject to change. We are constantly getting in more 2022 invoices, and the 5-year plans will be included in the February package, as well as the Sea to Sky Trails service. So I'll just go into the general government details. So overall, there's a surplus carry forward in 2023 so far of 849,000. And this is due to increased revenue. So we received a lot more interest this year than was estimated in the budget. Interest rates obviously have been increased. We received a lot more grants in lieu from BC Rail as well, 20,000 plus, which was a shock. And we have received more time allocation revenue into general government. This was due to the elections time spent and recovered. And also they increased the regional district basic grant $54,000 in 2022. So all of these have carried forward as a surplus. There's also been savings in 2022 operating, which is mostly salaries and benefits and other operating expenses. The salaries and benefits savings, I'll just give a little quick review. The salaries and benefits savings was 282,840 so far. And there was also savings in capital purchase, so $18,000 savings on the IT server versus budgeted, and the remaining are carry forward projects. I do have a listing of the carry forward projects in the next page. Just note that these projects, some of them also have revenues carrying forward, so they don't actually have an impact to the bottom line, but some of them are not. They're just strictly expenses without a revenue side as well. So that's the difference between this surplus carry forward and the full project list. Any questions there? Okay. And so in information technology, we have carry forward the Aggresso Unit 4 fix and upgrade. We're hoping to have that completed by May. We also carry forward the asset management software purchase. It's at 40,000. We're not sure what this amount will be. We have to go through the process first, and it might be pushed to 2024 just because of the backlog of software implementations currently happening. And then we have 75,000 for potential performance management software purchase added. And the website upgrade project has been increased in 2023 to approximately $60,000. That process hasn't been started yet for basically the competition hasn't been started yet. And the general government budget includes 3 asset management projects. One is potential to our confirmed development of a corporate asset management plan is included with an FCM grant. And there's another asset management project, a smaller amount that we're receiving some funding for from UBCM. And the health and wellness benefit is budgeted back to the policy amount of $500 per FTE. And this was increased in both 2021 and 2022 based on board resolutions to double the benefit. And that was due to the COVID restrictions and people not being able to go to the Christmas parties and things like that. If the board wishes to review what they would like to do with this policy in 2023, if they want to double it again, it would require a board resolution. The recruitment and retention expense in 2023, we're requesting $25,000, and this is just for recruitment initiatives and for leadership team development. The budget also includes the carry forward of the climate, energy, and climate action plans that were $50,000 budgeted in 2022. These have been carried forward. However, I don't believe they are on the work plan, but I'd like to carry them forward. Otherwise, the surplus deficit is used for something else. So really this surplus, these projects are in surplus right now in 2023. So I keep them in the expense side as well in 2023. And they'll just carry forward until the board changes their request or decides to use the funding for different projects. The regional connectivity project is shown here, and this is using the COVID restart grant. It's 41,000. However, this also is not on the work plan, and there is some uncertainty if this project will be continuing. And also the regional transit service does need funding, and potentially this could be reallocated to the regional transit service, as it would still qualify under the program for COVID restart grant as services that assists vulnerable populations. And there is time allocation from other services, which has increased due to CPI and also for, the other potential projects, asset management projects being the largest. And these are services from other departments, example, utilities, environmental services, working in general government for asset management plans, for the corporate asset management plan mostly. The operating surplus reserve is at 389,956 at the end of 2023. The recommended reserve guidelines show this should be around 789,000, which is approximately 2 months of operating. And this continually shifts. The operating usually increases year over year for general government. And so the difference is $399,044. There's also various transfers to and from all of the different reserves, asset, gas tax committee works funds, the amenity funds, and the PILT funds, as per various board resolutions. So this next chart shows all of the general government summaries, projects carrying forward. And most of these, like I mentioned, are in surplus and deficit. Some of them have other funding involved, which basically means they don't have an impact to the bottom line. For example, the corporate asset management plan is using an FCM grant of 50,000. So really 12,500 would be the carry forward. And as well, the asset management software shows 40,000, but 20,000 is using Community Works Funds Reserve. So 20,000 would be the carry forward. And I've listed all the other items. And if they're coming from a grant or from another reserve, there is no impact to the surplus. Any questions on those items for general government? And basically any other questions on the general government budget
Thank you,
from the
Director.
board?
We have a question from Jen Ford.
Thanks, Suzanne, for this. It's really clear here. I just have a couple of questions about order of process. Are we legislatively required to have that asset management work done by a certain time, or is it somewhat optional?
It's required, yeah. Within the application, there is a deadline for the grant, and we are shooting to have it all completed by June this year, the corporate asset management plan.
Okay. And this may be a question for the CAO. For the potential performance management software purchase, does it make these other website upgrades and asset management plan, does it make it easier to do that first? Like, would that facilitate the other projects getting done, or would it kind of come at the end of these different implementations of?
Yeah, thanks. So I think there's no there's no real requirement to sequence one way or the other, with the exception of maybe the asset management piece, which we can figure out as we move forward, because depending on the performance management software system that is acquired, it may have, as an example, an asset management function inside it. But the performance management systems, and that might not be the right language, really digitizing our business. Those systems have the ability to tap into other systems that are already in place.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean one has to proceed the other. There may be steps that need to be coordinated, but not black and white. This has to happen before this.
Okay. My other question is the regional connectivity project. Can you remind me of what that looks like, or what are we foregoing in potentially putting that on?
I can take a shot at that, Suzanne. That project has essentially been put on the back burner. And through the process of looking at the priorities that the current board has set, we need to bring forward and have a conversation with the board, probably in March, the first quarterly review, around a couple of previously directed projects from the board. And connectivity is one of them. So where does that fit in the list of things to do? So as Suzanne mentioned, when that conversation with the board happens, if connectivity somehow rises to the top again, that money's there, we can restart the work. But it's generally been in a holding pattern. The comment about regional transit is just an example of prioritization. So if the board says, knowing what the aim of that connectivity project was and might be, and knowing what the aim of regional transit is, if this is what the board wants to focus on, we could potentially shift that money because it meets the parameters of the grant to focus on regional transit. But that connectivity project has really been on ice. There's been nothing moving on that at all.
Okay. Thank you. I have one other question. The operational surplus reserve, to bring it up to that 2-month target of a comfortable carrying place. How can we do that to give you that certainty? Can we take money from a higher requisition, or how would you expedite that so that you have that comfortable reserve?
I think the questions for Director LaFrance.
I think she froze.
Is she frozen?
My thoughts on this general government leave, we have to, Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. It's showing that my connection is unstable. When dealing with the operational surplus reserve, I feel that these guidelines maybe need to be adjusted just for the general government service. I don't feel like that amount is, I don't feel like that amount is worthy. Like it's just too much in the reserve for no reason. I don't see a reason why we need to keep a huge surplus reserve in general government. So that's my feeling on those surplus reserves. And the only way to increase it would be to increase requisition. And I don't feel like that's a good reason to increase the requisition.
So would you feel more comfortable if we made a resolution to change the guidelines of that reserve to reduce it to 1 month of operating so that we're not always sort of trying to hit a target that you don't think is necessary?
Yeah, potentially review that policy and even separate out general government service because it's a little bit different. That's what I would recommend. Yeah, I don't feel like it's a big emergency to try to increase this reserve to the 2 months reserve policy.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Director Pettingill?
Yeah, thank you. Just trying to understand SLRD budgeting. So we'll approve some number for the general government service. And in our report, we have a number of carry forward projects listed with an amount. Do we have flexibility as we go forward in our strategic planning to move money around between those line items coming out of our strategic planning decisions? Because as long as we stay within that general government number, or are some of these amounts for these carry forward projects, those are really fixed for the year. And if we wanted to change those, that would have to be in the following year where those get adjusted. Like I'm just sort of wondering where the line is. We're sort of, this is our budget for the year, that's fixed, and where's the flexibility beneath that? Like where is that line?
Yeah, some of these projects are not related to grants received, so they can be realigned and switched to different projects. For example, just to have an example, the employee handbook review, that's just a plug number for $10,000. The boundary expansion work is just a contingent number that we keep carrying forward every year in case there is boundary expansions, because the SLRD does have to do a lot of work on those. But the corporate asset management plan is fixed now. We have received approval from the FCM for this project. And the asset management software can be switched as well, or pushed to different years. So it is kind of, you'd have to review each project and see if it's on the work plan, basically.
Okay, and so it's the sort of fixed decision we're making for the year is at the general government service level. That's the sort of decision we make and fix for the year. Underneath that, there's flexibility throughout the year unless it's attached to a grant or something that puts more parameters around it.
Yeah, yes, that's fair. Yeah.
And I think CAO Dalton would like to add something.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So as we look forward to next year's budgeting process, next year's budgeting and priority setting board strategic plan review session, this should come together. So we have money allocated in the budget and general government to projects that were initiated in response to board direction that haven't moved for one reason or another that we're carrying forward. They don't necessarily reflect the current board's priorities today. And so through this year, those where there is flexibility, unlike the grants that Suzanne's mentioned, we'll try and bring forward in the quarterly review to either provide an update in that project or say, is this still a priority for the board? If it's not on our work plan being addressed, then really that's money that should be available if it is not tied to a grant and a specific outcome for the board to allocate towards priorities. So we're a little out of sequence in terms of matching budget to board priorities, which isn't unusual for the first year of a mandate in any local government. But I think because in a number of cases, we haven't had the capacity to do the work. We're carrying forward funds that are tied to projects that were initiated, in some cases, a number of years past. We have to bring priorities and money together and enable the board to give us direction on what they want to do with those.
Thank you.
Director Crompton.
To that point, this is a list of 2022 carry forward projects. Is that true, Ms. LaFrance?
Yes.
Are there any projects that aren't on this list? So they would be in a grid that might be called the general government summary of projects we do not intend to carry forward. And then is there a number of that would roll down to have projects that we're not intending to carry forward into 2023? Did I ask that question in a way that made sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could build a separate list, I guess. Right now, it's all of the projects together. And as Craig mentioned, when the board is deciding on their priorities, we could potentially switch some of these items up. For example, the regional connectivity project, which we've been talking about.
I'm just wondering, are there any general government projects that haven't been started that aren't on this list?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Thank you. Okay.
Just gonna say, just in response to these questions, I think, one thing that we can try and do for the next iteration of this conversation with the board is maybe highlight those carry forward projects that Suzanne's brought forward, and maybe indicate those that are not currently on the work plan for this year, and there would potentially be money that the board could reallocate to the priorities that's identified. So we can probably add a bit of detail to this and highlight those that are really money for the board to allocate, as opposed to just carrying it over for the sake of carrying it over because it's on the books, if that makes sense.
Director Hoffel and then Director Demare and Director Crompton would you like to follow up?
Yeah, I just want to
Okay.
finish this part of the conversation. So is it fair to say that this is a comprehensive list of all the projects from 2022 that are carrying, that still have work to be done on them in future years? There aren't any that aren't on this list.
I can't say for sure. This is just the first kick of the can for this budget, but
But
yeah,
that's the intention.
yeah, yes.
Thank you, Director Hoffel.
So being the first kick of the can, if there's a line that I want to question under special projects, it just pertains to Lillooet alone. Is that something I do now, or is this the time, or at what point do I question that line?
Yeah, you can question anything on general government budget now if you'd like, and I can also share my screen if you want to also view the same time as I do the budget that you're discussing.
Okay, well, it's on page 12 and it is special project SP 125. It is the Lillooet Agriculture Food Supply and it's for $32,000. So I know.
Page 12, you mean of Suzanne's report?
Yes,
Or-
I've got page 12 of 32 here, and I think it's actually page 11.
So
But I
of-
saved mine and
So of Suzanne's report, which page? Can you see it's at the top right?
Yeah, that is page 12 of the agenda and page, oh,
Page 11.
is it page 11 on the other one? When I saved it, it went into page 12 for whatever reason. I highlighted it, saved it to my PDF. Anyways, it's under special projects. It's SP 125. For 32,000. In the description side, it says 2024 to new development service 3103. No idea what that 3103 is.
yeah, so this is from Area B Pilt. That's the Lillooet Agricultural Food Society contribution. And the notes are stating that in 2024, this will move to the new service, Economic Development Service, Area B in the District of Lillooet, that was created this year and will be requisitioned. So this 2023, as I was told by the CAO, will be the last year that we're going to be taking it from Area B PILT.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to what Suzanne said, so that service has been established, but no conversations have taken place around how to requisition in response to a service offering or an operational plan on the part of LAFs. And so for 2023, the intent in discussing with the area director from Area B was to continue as it's been done to this point in time, which is using PILT. But conversations will take place in 2023 to determine future requisition under that service establishment. So the board is not committed to requisitioning in 2024.
Okay.
That's a conversation for
That's
the board to have.
contract. That's a contract that we devised last year, correct?
Well, we agreed on the framework in the bylaw.
Yes,
That's as far as we got.
Yep.
So
Okay.
the next step would be the conversation between the District of Lillooet and Area B.
Correct.
Really, and coming to an agreement and then coming back to the SLRD and requesting a change.
But for this year, you're going to cover it out of the Area B. Okay, that was my question there. And so service 3103, is that just like in the description, it says 2024 to new economic development service 3103. Is that?
That's
is-
the service number. So all of our services are numbered.
Okay, I see. Excellent. Thanks.
And Director Demare had a question.
Yeah, when we look at the summary of the carry forward projects at another meeting, you know, I've talked about the whole concept of contractors. So specifically, I look at that regional connectivity project, which could have easily been done by a contractor rather than staff. So it's just putting the RFP together that would cost the funds. Because, yeah, but I'll leave that till we come to the meeting that we're going to discuss these.
CAO Dalton?
yeah, yeah, that's a really important discussion for the board to have and with us, and it falls under that service capacity notion about how to provide the services that the board decides are going to be provided. I would just not necessarily recommend the use of the word easy and contractor in the same sentence, because it's yeah.
Come on.
Thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Franz.
All right. Any other questions on general government, or is it safe to move to land planning and zoning? All right. So land planning and zoning also had a surplus carry forward of 382, and this is mainly due to salaries and operating expense savings in 2022 of about 237,000, and the rest is carry forward projects. The revenue, the zoning and planning revenue is budgeted just as status quo. This is also, you know, just an estimate. It's not known what kind of applications will be received in 2023. The salaries include an unfilled planner position, but in the past few years, planning has just been adding contract assistance when needed. So it remains as a salary, but it might just be filled as a contract for a few months, and it rolls over every year. There's additional legal bylaw enforcement budget added, just $4,000, as last year there was an increase in the need for legal assistance. It also includes the carry forward project of the natural hazard policy creation. This was first added in 2020, and the estimated cost was 70,000. It is just being carried forward at this point. Although I don't believe it's on the work plan, but I could be mistaken. So it's just a carry forward because it would be left in surplus otherwise, but also available for reallocation, I believe. The bylaw enforcement costs have decreased to just 45,000 for the short-term rental injunction costs based on the board resolution of 2018. Originally, this was 65,000, but it's just been carried forward with no expense, so we've reduced it to just 45,000. And the land use contract work continues, and that's a $10,000 project estimated. I believe there's just a few areas left to do. And the operational reserve balance is within the reserve guidelines for this service. If we want to just go to the actual budget, it is on page. Okay. Starts on page 21. And are there any questions on the land planning and zoning budget?
Yeah, Director Pettingill.
And just checking that all these carry forward projects, these are not recurring projects, so it was sort of a one-time project. We taxed for it. We haven't gotten to it yet. So we have the money to go if we want to go on the project. We're carrying that forward in case we decide we want to go this year, but we're not sort of every year collecting the same amount because this is an ongoing project and it's building up and building up and building up.
That's correct. It would just be carried forward in surplus and then being brought back down into the expense side every year. So it's not additional funding being requested.
Chair,
Director Rainbow, hello.
thank
Go
you. I'm
ahead.
sorry, I can't find my little hand that you're supposed to put on the screen. Just a question about the bylaw, reducing that amount from 65 to 45. I know it was put in there for a specific reason, and I understand that we've not used it for that reason, so I see why you've done that. But I would like, I'd like you to maybe discuss with Kim and her staff. They're working on putting some measures in place in the Upper Squamish, which quite frankly could lead to some legal activity. And I'm thinking that might not be the right time to reduce that budget. We may in fact need it, but that's all I need to say right now. But either you or I could check with Kim and see what she thinks.
Yeah, Kim has reviewed this budget and was in agreement to reduce it to 45K, but I'll discuss it with her just to ensure with these developments in Area D that you're mentioning that she feels that would still suffice.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. So back to page 21.
All right.
Any other? Before you start, Director Crompton, go ahead.
I am sure oh, there it is. Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead, Suzanne.
I am surprised, I guess, by the seeming. Oh no, I guess I'm not seeing previous years. So the rezone development application fees, I imagine that's a really variable number year to year based on what kind of applications we get or don't get. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And so when you prepare a budget like this, does Kim, when she prepares it, think to herself, well, I don't have a huge project coming through the door, so I don't expect this to be $300,000 and this sort of reflects what she imagines will come through the door? Or how is that number decided? Seems speculative to me.
It is very speculative, yes. We right now there isn't a lot anticipated to come through the door, so we're just using the status for that same rezone development application fee amount. But in the past, it's been quite large. Did I just freeze?
No, you did freeze, but then all of your words went very quickly and we were able to hear them all. It's great. I like that feature, by the way. Okay, so this is a status quo budget that doesn't expect a large application coming in the door, which is interesting from there's some overlap between the budget and planning here, because there's a bit of a tell as to, we don't expect any projects of size this year. Okay, thank you.
Carry on, Suzanne.
Any other questions on the planning budget? All right, we'll go back to my notes. And I did jump over the invasive species budget, but for now it is just shown as flat to last year. Potentially, we can review increasing that at the February meeting or even the March meeting when the Service Establishment Amendment bylaw has been adopted. Like I mentioned, the contractors have shown interest in receiving an increase for that service.
Suzanne, I wanted to say that as Area B, I'm very much interested in supporting the request for an increase in the invasive species budget. I think that money is just incredibly well spent, and every dollar we spend in that program is just worth more down the road for all the prevention and education work they're doing. And Elris is also doing some pretty outstanding reconciliation work and outreach and education. They haven't had an increase for a long, long time there. I have nothing but good things to say about that program, certainly in the north. So I will be supporting an increase in that program. Thank you.
All right, both of the contractors presented a budget which is the same amount as last year, but with conversations, they can definitely increase their scope of work to accommodate a larger budget.
Thank you.
And we'll discuss the Regional Solid Waste Management Service next. I did include a transfer from the operational reserve in 2023 of 70,000. There was a budget for 2022 for the operational surplus reserve. However, it was not transferred because it wasn't needed in 2022. Basically due to the carry forward of certain projects, namely the emergency management plan of $50,000. So the zero waste educator contract fees are within this budget as well. Every year we have an amount dedicated for that, and $17,000 is within 2023. There is also the new zero waste ambassador contract, which started in 2022 for $20,600 in 2023. There are the Area A diversion options for organics has been moved to 2024 for $10,000. And you'll see this when I have the 5-year plan sent for your review in February. And there is $5,000 for a legal dumping strategy, which is just the remainder of that project carried forward. And there's also that diversion campaign, it continues into 2023, and they've requested $18,000 for the 2023 work. We've also added the Wild Safe BC coordinator, which has been happening for the past 3 years, I believe. And that's their basically supported by WSBC, and they serve either the community or a group of communities. There's the solid waste emergency management plan of 50,000 carries forward into 2023. Basically, that is being pulled from the surplus reserve, and The time allocation has increased due to the CPI. And the operational surplus reserve at the end of 2023 is very close to the 2 months of operations, just under $1,000 difference. And that's the regional solid waste budget. I'll go to the actual details in my budget. And I'll take any other questions on the regional solid waste service.
I'm not seeing, oh, no, I am. Yep, Director Crompton.
So we requisition $150,000. I just want to caveat this by saying, it seems like a good deal to me that we spend $150,000 and we get the amount of service that we have. That said, I wonder if there are other solid waste services that you know of in local government anywhere that actually seek to do cost recovery as far as fees are concerned. Is there any local government you know of that recovers the full cost from the service itself?
Not that I'm aware of, but definitely would be beneficial. About half of the requisition is through other fees and other revenue and the surplus carry forward. So I don't know of any specific other local government that has 100% recovery. We can review this bylaw for the dumping and tipping fees amount. We can review that bylaw for the potential of increasing the amount recovered. It's basically $2.50 per waste unit. I don't know what the unit is. I don't have that bylaw on the top of my head, and it's charging the district of Squamish, Whistler, and also the Lillooet landfill for their annual dumping amount. So that budget can be that bylaw can be reviewed if there's capacity. I'm not putting work on their plate, but that's an option.
I'm not proposing it either. I'm saying, because I acknowledge too that there is a lot of work that's done to ensure that the fee regimes don't create, people driving waste all over the place to try and chase rates. So I understand that. It's just giving people the cost of their impact is, I think, an important decision we can make as communities. Thank you.
All right, so we'll go to the next service, which is the Utilities and Environmental Services Department. This is a fully clearing service. All of the costs, including salaries, training, and travel, are all recovered by the services the staff work on. It's all charged out via timesheets to the services based on the hours worked, with a percentage for, the benefits and also the additional expenses for the department. So any questions on the Utilities UES department and how that works? And I forgot to mention it does include the new facilities manager, which has been reclassified as a technologist position in 2023, which was discussed previously for the 2022 budget to start in 2023. And sorry, this should say 2023. We'll go to the next budget, and that's the regional transit service. Is that right? Yep. So this is basically a carry forward of the budget from 2022, as I still don't have the information from the Village of Pemberton on any service. So there was a resolution that came through about potentially using some of these funds for the Area C transit if needed, but I don't know how much is going to be needed yet. And also, so basically this is another holding pattern till we find out what we're going to do with this service. The operating surplus reserve is 21,000. So far, there isn't much operating costs, so 2 months of operating is very small. Any questions? And maybe, I don't know if Craig, you want to add more details about this service?
Yeah, thanks, Susanna. Just in terms of the Pemberton Valley transit service, the village has just received updated financials from the province. So we anticipate getting together with the village and Lillooet Nation in the next couple of weeks to work through that. And on the regional transit service piece, nothing to add beyond what you've shared.
Thank you.
All right, so the next service is the regional growth strategy. There was just a few meetings in 2022 that happened. Not a lot of action, so mainly everything has been carried forward to 2023. There is a small requisition for this service, and also there is basically just carrying forward the expenses. And I'll just take any questions on the budget for RGS.
I'm not seeing any hands.
All right, and that's all of the services so far that are available for discussion. Like I mentioned, Sea to Sky Trails, unfortunately wasn't able to get to, but we'll add that to the February meeting with the 5-year plans. Any other changes the board would like to see within these budgets? For example, I don't know if the board wanted to discuss the health and wellness benefit. Or if there's any other questions at this point that I can answer.
We have a question from Director Hopeful.
Thank you. Just going back for a minute to the regional solid waste management. So is there a surplus of the basically 62,000 for, oh, that was for 2021. There was a surplus, yes? And then, no?
Let me just get to that sheet.
Oh, sorry, page 26, well, 26 or 25.
So the surplus carry forward in 2022 into 2023 is the 33,000.
33,000, and then
Yeah.
66 was from 2021.
Yeah, 61,000 was the surplus from 2021 carried into 2022.
And then 2022 was the 33,590 or 2022.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And you could see those at the bottom here. They should all, if they're correct, they should all coordinate.
Yes, and go into the reserve, right? I was just, yes. Confirmation. Thank you. Awesome.
Any other questions or discussions?
Thank you. I was wanting to ask, so the February meeting would be the appropriate time to talk about, for example, suggestion to increase the invasive species maximum requisition. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, I'm going to approach the contractors and, because they've given me a budget with which just, sorry?
With an option
They've-
to increase, yes.
Yes, to see if they want to adjust their budget to show what they would do if they had more of a more funding from us.
And yes, go ahead, Armin.
Thank you. I was curious under the salaries and wages. I see it's tied to the CPI, which is great, and I think is shocking to all of us that it's that high, but that's what it is. So I was curious though where that lives, and this is my first time with this budget, so I don't know about whether it's a union piece, if that's just board direction, or if it's baked into other contracts. I think it's fair and all that. I'm just curious where that lives, I suppose.
Yeah, this was a board resolution many years ago to have the BC December CPI as the increase overall to all wages. It was added to the CAO's wage a couple years ago. In the past, it was just everybody but the CAO, but the CAO now also has a resolution from the board stating that in future years, the CPI December increase will be the basis of all increases for the year.
Okay, okay, and I just had when I looked at the budget documents, I just had a challenge where the number that actually showed the increase in salaries, there's a small note that says it includes new positions, but that percentage beside it is quite high to reflect those new positions. And I just, perhaps in the next round of documents, it'd be helpful to sort of parse those out. What's actually an increase to who's here and what is represents an addition to staff. And maybe that's in there, but it didn't immediately jump out to me besides the little notation. And I think that especially given that percentage is quite high, I think some extra attention there, and maybe that's just a presentation thing. I'm not suggesting we change the budget necessarily at this point, but understanding what's essentially non-discretionary or increase, which would be the CPI piece, and which is an increase in wages paid out because we've increased the number of humans that we're compensating.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, without having to go into a closed meeting, I think I can find a way to discuss this in February. Usually when you discuss salaries, you don't want to, yeah.
Well, yeah, I understand that there's a challenge. I just think some level of parsing that out a little bit more than is there. We don't need to go into the, yeah, I'm not trying to wade us into inappropriate space. I just want to try to provide clarity for the folks that are going to dig into this piece.
Mm-hmm. And these salaries might be adjusted further in February because right now, all of the positions to be hired in 2023 are showing as full years. And I will, with the discussions on when we anticipate to actually fulfill these positions, I'll adjust based on those months. So it should be reduced slightly in February with more information.
No, that's a great point. We may only get a 0.5 FD this year by the time hiring process goes through. So then that'd be phased in. So that would also help that percentage number. I just feel like we'd be needing to address questions in that area, given that that's a large percentage increase, and I think well justified. But thank you.
CAO Dalton, did you have something to add? Okay, Director Demare.
Suzanne, on page 23 of the PDF, solid waste management plan. If we go to the assessments page,
Okay.
in the highlighted bold-faced section there's requisitions maximums. One is a tax rate, the dollar limitation of 195,000. Then it's got a tax rate of up to 0.0344. Can you explain those two, please?
Yeah, so it's really interesting actually. So this service establishment bylaw was bylaw 695, which is quite old. I'm guessing before my time for sure, probably in the 90s. So when this bylaw was created, these two amounts equaled each other. So $195 value equaled this tax rate times the assessment value of that day. And so you can see how the assessment has changed over the years. And basically that is the big differentiate this, I can't even speak right now, but that's the big difference here is over time that assessment base grew that much to now have $1,600,000 available for the maximum tax requisition. Does that make sense? At the time the bylaw was created, this actually equaled 195,000 based on the assessments.
Yep, okay, thank you.
And it also shows, you know, sometimes you don't want to adjust the bylaw. So if we were to, this bylaw is quite old, if we wanted to adjust the bylaw for a new rate based on the service, you know, maximum requisition increases that we do, it would actually reduce the rate per thousand. So it would be the opposite of what we would want to happen. It would actually reduce that maximum requisition amount if we amended it. All right, I guess if there's no other questions, that's the end of this discussion.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any more hands. I thank you for your report. Motion to receive, I believe, from Director Demare, second by Director Hopsall. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. The chair's verbal update. Today.
Unless you have something you'd like to talk about, you're welcome to it.
Thank you. Decision on late business is item number 6. Being late business, so the next item I'm looking for Director Rainbow's hand would be adjournment. Thank you, Director. Motion to adjourn the committee of the whole. Seconded by John.
I'll move that.
Too late.
Here.
Mike is there? Okay, thank you. All right, we are calling this regular meeting of the board back to order. And we're now at 16. We have no recommendations from the committee of the whole. So could I ask that someone move that we go into closed? Moved by Director Crompton, seconded by Director Herford. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We can carry on with NASCAR. I think that's less